Did that make sense? You know what? I put links to the Radiolab on the Hug Nation Facebook page. I linked to the Wired story and the Radiolab story. Or the Radiolab. Basically, you can go listen to the shows and hear more about these experiments and what they learned from them. I had no boogers. Sweet. See, it's a good thing I didn't spend too much time with that story. I did spend, a lot of time in the rain last weekend, so. Cool. I'm glad that it resonated. It took me a while for it to filter through, but once it started to kind of all these pieces started to put together, I've been thinking about it for the last 2 weeks, and it kind of is a real. Now, in some ways, it's just a scientific way of looking at stuff that is a part of a lot of new thought. About you are you manifest your reality. You are a co-creator of the universe and all those things. But I'm less concerned with the actual physical creation of the universe and more concerned with the fact that there is no experience of the universe except which that we perceive, and our perception is a very personal thing. Everything that we are exposed of is the way that our brain interprets some sort of stimulus and signal. And so there's the physical actual stimulus, like a light reflection that then we interpret in some way. But then we put so much faith in accuracy of either things we're told or things that we experienced. And when you start to realize that the way that you wrap those experiences in story determines how you experience. It determines how it then becomes a story that affects your now and into the future. Sorry, I'm going to see some of these quotes. I was given a drug when I shattered my leg to temporarily turn off my memory. Whoa! Has anybody ever had what's it called? Amnesia? As far as I remember, I did have it. I've actually had 2 experiences with amnesia. One, I was put in charge of watching a guy who took a hit in football practice in high school, and he spent, I watched him as he just asked the same questions over and over and over and over again. There's actually a great Radiolab story about loops, where they talk about what happens when someone has I think they call it retrograde amnesia, where you forget things as they happen. So when I was in college, I fell off a rope swing. You know what? Maybe I should illustrate how this happened. So it was a rope swing where it kind of had this. You would run and then jump off this kind of ledge, and then the rope would kind of catch you, and you would swing around. And so I ran and jumped off the ledge, and so then as the slack hit, I went, and I couldn't grip with my fingers, and so I slipped off and landed on my head. At least that's what I was told. And so I got retrograde amnesia. So as things happened, I would forget them as soon as they happened. So at some point, my friend that I was with, who was visiting from out of town, gets me to the hospital. He's like rolling down the window asking people, how do I get to the hospital? And I'm going, why are we going to the hospital? And they take me there, and something really crazy happens, which is I constantly have the feeling that I wanted to share something. And so I was sitting there in the hospital bed, and my friend was sitting there with me, and I remember I said, "Oh, hey, I bet you're pretty glad you came and visited with me, huh? I know how to party." And I thought that was a pretty clever thing to say from a hospital bed. And he's just like, total straight-faced. And I was like, dude, that's kind of funny. And he looks at me and he goes, "You said that about 78 times. I'm like, oh. Because in my brain, you've been like in a conversation and you think, I want to share something. and then you share it, I would forget that I shared it, but I still had that feeling that I wanted to share that thing. And so I kept sharing the thing. I kept sharing the thing. I kept sharing the thing. And then they wouldn't let me leave until I could, shorten the window. So they would be like, do you know where you are today? I'm like, Scripps? I'm like, no, you're at Thornton Hospital. I'm like, oh, right. And then they'd walk away and they'd come back and they'd be like, do you know where you are? I'm like, Scripps? No, Thornton. I'm like, Thornton, right. Do you know where you are? Scripps. No, Thornton. And then I just kept saying, I know how to party. I know how to party. I know how to party. And they're like, oh, man. So, it's I don't know. It's a wild thing. And another, as long as it's in my head, there's another Radiolab. I've become a Radiolab addict. There's another one about a gentleman who had the most severe this type of memory loss that they'd ever seen, and his is permanent. Mine came back, because it's a concussion. This guy's he had a stroke, and so it's that way. It's kind of like the Memento guy, right? And so it's severe, and they've done all these studies on him, like Oliver Sacks, the guy from Awakenings or whatever. He's studying this guy, and they, over time, have discovered a few things about him that don't get lost in the same way as everything else does. He was a conductor, and he'd been married for, 30 years. When his wife would visit him, he couldn't tell you that he was married or what she looked like, but when she would come, he would, and he would get, his love broke through whatever it was in his brain that was traumatized. He had a memory of his love of his wife. And the other thing was music. They brought his it gives me chills. They brought his like orchestra in to visit him in the hospital, or during at some point, and they started playing, and he conducted the orchestra. And then as soon as it was over, he was like, "Who are all these people?" But his whatever connection that he had to music and love were bypassed the traditional paths of the brain. Isn't that crazy? Man. Other memory problem I had is I got my wisdom teeth out when I was in senior in college, or right like the week before school started, and so they gave me whatever drugs they would give someone who had a oral surgery, but not nitrous. Man, why do my dentists suck? Anyway, or maybe they did. I don't remember. So anyway, later in the day, I went to visit my high school because I wanted to check on my schedule and maybe move some things around. You want to have like PE last so you can ditch or whatever. I don't remember exactly what I was trying to orchestrate. But I walked into the office, and I was like in student body, and so I knew a lot of the people that worked there, and I walk in, I'm like, "Hey, happy summer, everybody! Welcome!" And everyone is looking at me like, "Hey, hello, John. Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I just was coming to check on my schedule." And I'm like, "You want to change your schedule again?" I'm like, well, "I just want to check and see if there's anything I want to change." They're like, "You were here 2 hours ago and you changed your schedule." I was like, "What? I drove here, did some change to my schedule, drove home, forgot that I'd done it, and then drove back?" I'm not sure if maybe the dentist should have like tacked a note to me or something like that. Maybe tattooed something on my arm. Anyway. Bridie says, "You could tell us about the time I hit my head at the hospital." I'm like, "Oh yeah. Did I tell you about the time that I hit my head when I was on a rope swing?" I'm just trying to check on some of the stats here. Welcome everybody who has popped in since we got started. It is a treat to share Hug Nation time. Hug Nation is our recalibration moment. Actually, any time is a recalibration moment. I think that as we practice and start to realize that being the person that we want to be is really the joy that brings a internal joy that you can't get from doing stuff in the world. Actually, I wrote this little thing a couple nights ago. I'm going to try to, let me read it about that, what's important, if I can find it. Life is about the strength of your integrity, not the power of your might. The depth of your service, not the reach of your influence. What you surrender to, not what you conquer. The gifts shared, not the invoices billed. What you create for the world, not what you acquire for yourself. And then Matthew Ramos pointed out that, where is that? A great Winston Churchill quote that basically he said the exact same thing much more succinctly. He said, you earn a living by what you get, you earn a life by what you give. And how incredibly transformative it is when you start to learn, not from words, but from experientially learn, that when you do start looking for ways to give in the world, you find yourself filled up with feeling, with gifts from others, with total changer of the game. Hello, New Fusion. Hello, Rat Girl. Welcome, Cherry Ale. Welcome, A-Chop. Welcome, Glimmer Boy. Wow, look at all these awesome people. Welcome, everybody. So, I can't remember if I already... No, I'm just kidding. There's just so many memory jokes. They write themselves. All right. I'm just Joe asked, will I be doing Hug Nation at Lucidity? Lucidity is coming up in like 2.5 weeks in Santa Barbara. Very excited. Yes, I'm going to be doing Hug Nation. I'm not sure exactly where they put me on the schedule. I know I'm in like the Healing Den stage, I think, or area that I'm going to do a Hug Nation talk there. What I'll probably do is what I did at Fuente last weekend, and Hoop Charmer was there, and a bunch of other people were there, which is just kind of leverage the vibe and just kind of sit down with a bunch of really cool people in a really cool place and just kind of feel what we need to talk about. You know, one thing that you know, if you've been listening to Hug Nation for a long time, you know that there's certain topics that I touch on, but there's massive overlap. I mean, when I announced the talk that I gave at Fuente, they gave me the mic and they said, you want to tell everybody to come over and you're going to do your talk. And I was like, yeah, we're going to come do a heart calibration. I'm like, you know, spoiler alert, life's amazing, you're divine, you know, kind of like, there's only so many things that I talk and share about and then try to apply them as much as possible. So we'll see what happens. You know, and then as events happen, we focus on little elements of that. Like after the storms, surrender was kind of the focus of the town. So we'll see. But yes, I'm going to do it there. We're also going to have the Pink Lounge at Lucidity. So not the one that we have on the Playa, because that is all in Nevada still, but we're going to do a traveling version of our Pink Lounge. Hopefully even have cucumber water. We're going to have the Pink Heartlight. Kiwi's Heartlight is supposed to be there. Some spires and a chill... We're trying to get some carpet in the next week so we can have, you know, more of a chill, soft area to hang out. So yeah, I'm very excited about bringing some Hug Nation, Pink Heart, love vibes to Lucidity, because I think the way that they've been going about it is very much conducive to that. Somebody posted when I said, going to Lucidity, and they're like, oh, another West Coast conference with the same old bands. I'm like, I don't even know who's playing. Like, a festival to me is so not about music. Like, I get that music is what people get excited about and it brings the people, but I would be fine going with the festivals that have, you know, no big name music and people just, you know, even if there was no dancing at all, I would still like to hang out and talk with people that are attracted to the gifting ideas, to being open-hearted. I mean, the whole idea of lucidity is like awaken the dream, you know, the concept, the vibration they're trying to maximize is kind of what we talked about, the whole point of today's Hug Nation, you know, of like, whoa, you are in control. wake up. Don't be passive in the way that you craft your world. Pirate says, I prefer music that's made spontaneously and not scheduled. Speaking of which, I met Tall Paul in Mexico. We had a little moment on the rocks where I said, Paul, hey, I dig what you do. And he goes, ditto. And then we walked past each other. Am I going to bounce this summer? You know, I'm having a little bit of a struggle with my planning and scheduling of things. I have no plans to go to bounce. I have tickets to go to Flipside in Austin, but I'm feeling so daunted by packing and planning and figuring out all of that I'm very close to just selling my tickets to that and trying to focus on the things that are nearby that I'm already focused on. Entic asks, am I going to Shambhala? Don't have plans for that either. Every year I say, man, next year I'm just going to hit the festival circuit. And then I hit a few. I'm actually, I mean, all things considered, for somebody that rarely leaves this room, the fact that I did Fuente, I'm going to do Lucidity, Ignite, which is more of a fire flow festival in Joshua Tree the week after that, or 2 weeks after that. And then Burning Man, San Diego Decom, and Elysium. That's, you know, that's a solid season. And especially after how hard Fuente was with all the travel and the rain, and it's like, I'm not feeling like, man, there's these huge gaps in my summer schedule. I'm more thinking of like, instead of, maybe I should put naps in my summer schedule. Yeah, it's the life is short as far as skipping one of the reasons why I haven't just said skip it is because I'm trying to practice and analyze my thoughts and try to figure out where is my resistance coming from. And this is a good, you know, this is the practice that I try to do at all times and just try to get more and more in tune with. Why do I not want to go? Is it the universe, there's blockages and so I'm trying to force something? Or is it because I'm afraid? Or is it because I have hang-ups? Because I'm you know, anxious about what I'm going to pack and I'm scared of experience that I don't know. I mean, like, I don't like to go to yoga because, one, I don't like going places that I don't know where to park. I don't like going places where I don't know where I'm going to go. I don't like not knowing where I'm going to put my mat. I don't like knowing if I'm too close to the person next to me. I don't like knowing if I'm sweating too much and should I be wiping that off. I don't like knowing if I'm doing the wrong, you know, okay. So I could make the argument, oh yeah, yoga just isn't in the flow for me. But I think that would be ingenuous. I think all of those blockages are mind blockages, not heart blockages. Speaking of which, I have done yoga 4 times in the last week. Who's got 2 thumbs in mudra position and just did yoga 4 times? This guy. Okay, I'm not sure if that worked. Yeah, I got a free week at a local place called Core Power Yoga, and so I said, well, I'm just gonna try to do it as much as I can during that week, and it's been great. I mean, I'm incredibly aching back right now, but no pain, no gain? Or as people always say when they're like feeling wretched, that's the toxins coming out, right? Yeah, this is all, no, I'm feeling great. Hot yoga will give a free week too, huh? It's good because actually I've realized that while this has been a good experience, the Core Power is not my ideal style of yoga. Years ago, I was very active in a yoga studio called Synergy that my sister-in-law was a teacher in and an ex-girlfriend of mine was a teacher in, which was a very spiritual practice of yoga. It was a combination, it was a hot room yoga It was a hatha-based flow. It was a specific flow every time, exactly the same, but a lot of breathing and a lot of reminders of breath. And the one that I've been doing is very much kind of like a gym yoga. You know, it's for toning, and it's cool. And they do some words that have to do with being present and honoring your body and a little bit of breath. But my ideal stuff would be integrate more of my spiritual side into the physical. In fact, one thing that I've been thinking about lately is exploring teaching yoga, but co-teaching, because what I've been thinking is, how cool would it be to do a Hug Nation like this while we're also doing a gentle yin stretching? So, you know, we do a live class where there's like one person who's kind of leading in postures, but long, deep, more stretching than strenuous postures. And then while we're in those places, I do some Hug Nation-y type stuff of trying to get us, you know, focus on being present, and words and lectures and ideas about the non-physical parts of yoga. Because I had someone kind of give me an aha moment about a year ago, where they returned from India and was shocked that I did not consider myself a yogi, because to them, upon returning from India, a yogi was not someone who did physical practices. A yogi was someone who pursued, you know, integration, or whatever the definition of yoga is. Now I can't remember, but it was not about. I mean, the physical part is just what we in the West call yoga. Is that making sense? Thank you, Hoop Charmer. Yeah, I think it'd be, you know, I think that it's just it just seemed to resonate very much with what I like and what people that I think that I connect with. I think that it's something that, like, I wish there was a yoga class right before my talk at Fuente that was led by Siri and Kamala, and I only stayed for the beginning of it, but theirs was very spiritual. And I was like, yeah, this is what, like, I want to be working on my body, but, you know, I don't just want to. I want to combine the two. I need to integrate mind and body, and I think that that's where a lot of magic, who knows? I take 4 classes, and suddenly I'm like critical and scholarly. Well, what I like about yoga, from my weak experience. Cool. Well, thank you for the supportive. There's so many things that I'm starting to feel inspired to create more things. Now we'll see if I can actually be disciplined enough to do them. I've been really thinking a lot about trying to make another meditation, like the morning blessing. Had a cool thing told to me at Fuente, where a woman that I know played the morning blessing to her 8-year-old niece. And if you haven't heard the morning blessing, it's basically like, you are connected to the universe. You know, you are, it's not like spiritual, but you could certainly, I think it is, but it doesn't talk in traditional religious terms or anything like that. And this 8-year-old started crying, and she said to her aunt, she's like, I don't understand these feelings I'm having. I was like, oh. And so my friend was like, could you make a recording, you know, for kids? And I was like, wow, I don't know where that would go. Like, when I think about my nephews, like that recording would have to be about like 7 seconds long. It'd have to be like, wee, you're awesome. Oh, goodbye. Don't break that. Be careful. Don't touch your brother. You know, that would be the recording. But I was thinking about some other ones. Like, I started doing one that I started writing one that was a something to listen to on a commute that kind of tunes you in with your car and fellow drivers. And then I also started writing one that was when you go to bed, because that's a much different, I mean, the ideas can be the same, but the energy, like the Morning Blessing one tries to ramp up and get you started, but I would love to create one for myself that tunes me into what I want to be the last things that I'm thinking about as I go to bed. There is a great CD that I used to, I haven't been listening to it lately a lot, called The Universal Mind, Secret of the Universal Mind, that was one of the inspirations for doing the morning meditation, because it's anyway, if you didn't hear that, or let me know and I'll send you the info, or try to post a link to it, because it is, when I was listening to it a lot when I would go to bed, I think it had profound results in my life. It basically is like, you are connected to the universal mind. At this moment, every answer you need is on its way to you. You are connected to all things. You are, and it's told with this really cool voice, and the kind of it echoes. Certain words echo through, and it's got these beats, and it's rad. Kiki, you say your 4-year-old listens and doesn't fully understand, but it's still good. Well, you know what? That's awesome. I think that she wakes up and looks out the window to tell the earth good morning. Well, on behalf of the earth, thank you. It has been a good morning. You would like if this after part was part of the archives as well? That's good feedback. Thank you, Clay Chica. I so rarely get feedback on the archives and what's working and what doesn't. So I sometimes sometimes I also feel like in YouTube terms, putting a 20-minute video is pretty arrogant. So putting, a long video is even more so. But one thing I could think about, I could start doing maybe like MP3s. Make a podcast. Like, I listen to these hour shows of Radiolab. I could make our Hug Nation archives that would be for commutes and things, where an hour is, you want to, taking an hour while you drive is reasonable, where like watching an hour video while you have email alerts going is not really reasonable. Oh, well, this is good to hear. That these casual parts are more appreciated. I kind of feel like, the belief buffet, which is the talk that I'm preparing to say, is the meat, and this is all kind of chit chat. But I'm appreciate hearing this, that this is considered a appetizing part of the belief buffet as well. Here I was thinking that I was trying to serve up the entree, and everybody likes the coleslaw. I had no idea. Thank you. Gravy. Oh, I love the word gravy. Gravy and syrup. For a long time, I wanted to start a company called Buddha Syrup. Just drizzle a little Zen on it, everything. Speaking of companies, First Saturdays LLC exists. Got word this week that First Saturdays is now an official corporation. We are incorporated, which means we can now take the next steps to apply for nonprofit. We can get a bank account. We can, embezzle. What I mean is, we're on the way. It's not that big a deal. You just click some things. In fact, I clicked some things wrong, and like now the mailing address has got my name and Jason's address, but for all intents and purposes, it was more of a mental hurdle. I was stalling because I was scared of it's one thing to have this whole thing, it's another thing to say, okay, we're doing this. That's been recurring lately. In fact, I had a lot of anxiety when the Pink Path movie released, because it's one thing to say, oh, cool, I whipped together this video from the burn footage, in the last week or over the weekend. It's another thing to say, hey, I've been working on this for 6 months, I think that's my fear, and Just that simple. It's, fear of being judged, fear of not doing enough, not being enough, fear of committing to something that I want to back out of. I actually had another, I'll just keep ranting. I had another learning experience at Fuente where I talked about how I was, in fact, that I'm a fuck up, I'm a divine broadcast a couple weeks ago, where I talked about and cried about how I felt so vulnerable and scared about committing to this group of amazing artists and being a part of their project, and I didn't want to let them down, and eventually kind of confessed that, told them how I felt, and they loved me and embraced me, and we found a way that it could work, and the ceremony was beautiful. They had my recorded voice during the dance performance, and then in the middle I jumped on stage and did a live 1-minute guided meditation for everybody that was there, and it was awesome. Very proud to be a part of it, very honored to get to know a lot of the people that were involved. But one of my responsibilities was to bring my iPod with a song on it. The way, before the ceremony started, we had these 4 portals that were built, these wooden, 4-post things that everyone was supposed to walk through, and each one was decorated by a different element. There was a fire one, a wind one, a wood one, and a water, 4 something. And so I was supposed to bring to Mexico the song for wood, I think. And so I got my old iPod, made a playlist with that track over and over on it, dragged it onto my iPod, brought it to Mexico, came down to the performance, almost forgot it, went back to camp, got my iPod, got to the performance, and then couldn't find the song. It didn't transfer for some reason. And it was too late at that point to back it up or move it from it, because the David had it, but it was too late to now download it, because everyone was showing up, and it was I just had to in the moment just own it and say, I have no excuse, I messed up, this is not going to happen, there's not going to be this song for the performance, and it's my fault, now we need to keep going. And the part that I had to let go of, because I had to give a meditation 5 minutes from then, and I had to be focused and present and in my heart space, is I had to let go of the voice that was saying, that's why you shouldn't commit to things. You let people down. You see? You did it. You did exactly what and it's like, everybody here loves me. It's going to be fine. And it was fine. It was a bummer, because this song was written for this performance. It will never be performed again. It was but we also had these crazy storms, and a lot of things that we had to surrender and just let be as they were. And I talked to, I knew that he wouldn't be holding on to it, but still, for my peace of mind, I had to kind of say, look, I am sorry. I want nothing more than to lift you up, and it hurts me that I, brought the performance down by not providing that, but, thank you. And he was like, I release you. Please release this. And so now I'm looking forward to my next opportunity to let someone down. Maybe it will be you. Actually, it's whoever earned a sticker 3 weeks ago, because I still have not sent those out. See how much practice I'm getting? Thank you. We're approaching 2 o'clock, and you know what that means. It means we're going to have to go back to our days, but hopefully bringing this recalibration and this reminder of what we are, who we are, and how magic the now is. In other awesome news, Sabon now carries the pink splat die, which is the the liquor, whatever they call them, pharmacy place that I frequent. So normally I have to go into to Walgreens and hang out in the dye aisle if I want to be recognized. Now I can just go to my local place and be like, huh? Oh, you recognize me now? Clay Chica says my hair is distracting. You know, yes, that was pink steel. The metrosexual cousin of blue steel. I go back and forth, and Clay Chica, that's actually, why for a few months of the year I try to go not pink, so I can remind myself and others that that I'm more than just my hair. Although it took me a long time to really believe that about myself. In fact, for a long time, I felt like I only had a right to put the camera on me if I had my shirt off. Now I just go pantsless, but it's not on camera, so no, I have pants on. But it is that is a significant shift for me to feel like, one, that like I could make something that is audio only, that my my voice and words have enough of a value that it doesn't need to be danced up with fur pants and pink hair and overly unnaturally tanned abs. Although the yoga is helping the abs, so maybe I will start going shirtless again, I'm not saying I won't. Bridie, yes, I will be back at 6 o'clock in 4 hours. Kiki, you are so right about clothes, but there was, maybe this will be a story for tonight, but there was a time when I was doing Globalgasm and Hug Nation at the same time, which are both exercises in trying to connect people using the web. And I put most of my energy in Globalgasm because I believed, and experience showed me, that that's what got people interested, was talking about purient things, talking about sexuality, showing skin and nakedness, and that would get people's attention. And just talking about love and ideas was not nearly as compelling. So but I think we've worked through that. Thank you so much for being a part of this, for connecting, for recalibrating with me, and being a part of this story and this now. It would be awesome to stay connected, so please subscribe via iTunes or YouTube or Facebook, or be my friend on any beat, or just be my friend. You don't have to get me any gifts. If you want to give me gifts, that's fine, but let's just stay connected and keep this love vibration going. Have an amazing day. I love you.